Korea, United Nations troops push on in the cautious advance against the communists. An advance whose purpose, General Ridgway states, is not to seize ground, but to wipe out the enemy.
The Korean War was the first major conflict that was taken on by a military force under the United Nations banner. However, on the 27th of June 1950, a meeting of the UN Security Council declared that actions of the North Koreans' attack over the 38th parallel could not go without intervention. Resolution 83 stated that, having noted the appeal from the Republic of Korea to the United Nations for immediate and effective steps to secure peace and security, recommends that members of the United Nations furnish such assistance to the Republic of Korea as may be necessary to repel the armed attack and to restore international peace and security in the area. The United States rushed troops to quickly bolster South Korean forces, but was soon joined by countries such as the United Kingdom, Australia, Canada, France, even far-flung nations such as Colombia. It was a grand coalition akin to the days of ball and musket from the Napoleonic era, but the Korean War was fought ridge to ridge with machine gun and jet fighter. This year marks the 70th anniversary of the Battle of the Imjin River. I recently made a video of the Victoria Crosses won during the Korean War, in which I cover the men of the Glosters and their medal-winning actions. There is a link to it in the description below. But in this video, I'm going to explore the often overlooked Belgian contribution to the battle. But before we delve deeper, don't forget to subscribe for more military history. Thank you. When the call from the United Nations for military aid for Korea was called, Belgium was in the midst of a major international social crisis called the Royal Question. It split the country and its supporters and opposition clashed on the streets. However, the Belgian Prime Minister Joseph Foulin was anti-communist and sought to send a Belgian contribution to the fighting in Korea. However, at the time, he was unable to send conscripted soldiers of the Belgian army overseas to fight in foreign wars, and volunteers were called upon to what would become known as the BUNC, the Belgian United Nations Command. During the war, nearly 4,000 Belgians would serve in the BUNC. Over its lifespan, the Belgian force also incorporated 78 troops from neighbouring Luxembourg. Men from both nations would serve with distinction during the fighting. The first batch of BUNC troops set foot in South Korea in Busan on the 31st of January 1951, easily identifiable by their brown berets and distinctive cap badge. In early April, the 29th Infantry Brigade were reinforced by the BUNC, the brigade being made up of primarily British troops. Upon arriving in the Imjin, the BUNC men took over positions held by the Royal Ulster Rifles to the right of the brigade's defensive lines. They quickly found admiration among their British allies. Gunner Jim Jacobs of the 170th Independent Mortar Brigade said this about Belgian troops that his battery would be supporting on the Imjin. At first, the Belgians seemed like a mad lot, bit gun-ho, but we quickly found them to be first-rate soldiers. In the early morning of the 22nd of April 1951, the Chinese People's Volunteer Army attacked the 29th Brigade. All along the Imjin, the UN forces were facing down a determined force, looking to quickly overwhelm them. The Belgians were soon fighting off ferocious Chinese attacks. Manning a listening post ahead of the main BUNC lines was First Sergeant Medard Leading. The 20-year-old defiantly held off repeated attacks, fighting hand-to-hand, as he bravely reported enemy positions back to the brigade command post. For his bravery, he was awarded the US Silver Star and a French Croix de Guerre. His award citation reads, "In command of an advanced listening post, 1,500 metres in front of our lines, he was encircled by the enemy at night on the 23rd of April, north of the Imjin River. When communications broke, he continued to hold his own position in the enemy lines throughout the night, repulsing 5 enemy attacks. At dawn, he rejoined the battalion and reported back with his men. During his highly successful mission, he showed great calmness and leadership." By the afternoon of the 23rd of April, the Belgians were bravely holding on to their positions. American napalm strikes aided them as they sought to hold their ground, despite seemingly overwhelming Chinese forces opposing them. At around 1700 hours in the afternoon, they were ordered to make a withdrawal back across the Imjin. The American 7th Infantry Division launched a counterattack to cover the Belgians' withdrawal. As they withdrew, further airstrikes were called in, and they were covered by British mortar crews. and US tanks that had been brought up to help the troops trying to keep the Chinese at bay. The Chinese troops were now holding vital pontoon bridges over the river. However, the Belgians and Americans successfully broke through and made it safely back across, and without any casualties. By 1830 hours on the 23rd, all of the surviving BUNC troops were back over the Imjin and were restocked with ammunition and volunteered to take up defensive positions on Hill 340. On the morning of the 25th of April, Chinese attacks had not ceased, and A Company and C Company of the Belgian Battalion were now helping to cover the withdrawal of the Northumbrian Fusiliers and the Royal Ulster Rifles. During this action, they were supported by 3 Centurion tanks. By 1400 hours in the afternoon, the Belgians finally received their orders to withdraw from the area. The Belgian troops that fought on the Imjin are often overlooked in the grand scheme of the battle. From the 700 BUNC men who fought on the Imjin, staggeringly, they only suffered 12 men killed in action. On the 6th of September 1951, the BUNC received the US Presidential Citation for their actions on the Imjin. Upon leaving his command in August of 1951, Lieutenant Colonel Albert Crahay sent this letter to the 29th Infantry Brigade's Tom Brodie. As I'm about to leave the 29th British Infantry Brigade in the name of the Belgian Volunteers for Korea, I am keen to express the great esteem and friendship that we feel towards our British comrades. We've been fighting side by side with the brigade for almost 5 months. We felt that we were part of it, and we've been proud to share the fame that is acquired among units that were fighting in Korea. We will always be happy to meet up again with our former brothers in arms, either in Korea or in Europe. Thanks for watching. Please like, share and subscribe, and I'll catch you again in the next one.